with the early autumn rise of the moon, the young men near the church. Suddenly they see a figure in the distance, whereby they instinctively slacken their pace. The stranger's unaware that he is being observed, nevertheless behaves in a suspicious, furtive manner. His distance being approximately 100 yards ahead, they recognize the figure to be that of Mr. Pickman. He appears to carry a small satchel under his arm. Young Perkins questions Kevin. Is he going to the church? I don't think so. Look at where he's walking. Mr. Pickman behaves in an unusual manner. Nearing the church, he doesn't enter. He turned left in the direction of the potter's field. The young men stealthily follow the shadowy figure. Is he going to pray over young Jonah's grave? Kevin suggests. Does Mr. Pickman know that Jonah isn't buried in the church grounds? No, it is all quite apparent to the young men that Mr. Pickman knows exactly where Jonah is buried. Notably, on reaching the fork in the trail, he turns left and begins to walk along the long, lonely trail that leads to the potter's field. Look at him. Kevin speaks in a low whisper. I see. I see. Young Perkins responds in a tone that is as subtle as it is suspicious. What was he carrying under his arm? Young Perkins questions his companion, who silently shakes his head in uncertainty. The two continue to shadow Mr. Pickman until he reaches the lonely acreage of the potter's field. There they take cover behind a grove of weeping willow trees that surrounds the derelict grounds. Drifting clouds cover the moon, presenting faint illumination. But from what little light the moon allowed, they can tell through the murky gloom that Mr. Pickman had retrieved one of the shovels that the pallbearers left behind. He was walking from grave to grave. He began to tap the tops of the crosses with the tip of the shovel, each one receiving 3 strikes from the shovel's metal edge. The metal scoop of the shovel reverberates with a dull ring. What was this bizarre ritual? Is this peculiar behavior something practiced up north, in Darkwitch? Returning to the mound of earth where Jonah's freshly interred body lay, he once more begins tapping the tip of the shovel rhythmically against the top of the cross. From deep within the loose earth of Jonah's grave, a muffled growl is heard. The mound began to quiver ever so slightly. It seemed to be some sort of signal, a call to action, whereby Pickman, working in earnest, rapidly worked to disinter young Jonah's body. As he removed the soil, he is somehow aided by something within. Was Jonah alive? Was he trying to get out? Did Pickman somehow, in some way, resurrect Jonah? Young Perkins remembers the sight of his cousin's horribly mutilated body, the remembrance of which assured him of the fact that Jonah was indeed dead. What dark manner of necromancy was this? After enough earth had been sufficiently excavated, Mr. Pickman then removed the covering from the parcel he carried. It was a large, black book. It appeared to be a Bible, or at least it had the thickness of a family Bible. Holding the book open, he began to read. The words he recited were unfamiliar to the young men. They had no meaning. The words Pickman spoke were in another language, another tongue, perhaps Latin. As he read, he stretched forth his gloved hand and waved it in a ritualistic manner. As his arm passed over the casket, the lid slowly began opening until the light of the moon revealed the nauseating specter of Jonah's bloated remains. Young Perkins and Kevin lay at the foot of the willow tree. There they remained, staring in an unutterable state of gorgonized, horrific insensibility. Like stone statues, they lay grounded to the earth. Inexplicably, Jonah's body began to slowly move, writhing, twisting, undulating in hideous contortions. The horrendous scene unfolding before them was beyond the incredible, beyond all belief. A scene that would force a madman into sanity or a sane man into raving madness. For what caused Jonah's corpse to motion was not the fact that it had somehow come to life. No, what emerged from beneath the fetid rot was nothing from this earth. Or, to say correctly, it was nothing from the surface of the earth. The lurking thing that breached the grave was something from beneath the earth. Something subterranean, something subhuman. It was beyond the reach of man, beyond the grace of God. What revealed itself that night beneath the faint chill of the moon's glow of the potter's field, on the night of October 31st, 1932, in the midst of the Negro cemetery of Muskie, Mississippi, was nothing less than a living, breathing, a nightmarish denizen of the blackest chambers of the netherworld, a foul, grotesque monster. Its appearance was absolutely indescribable. Peering through the shadows, it looked like some gruesome creature vomited forth from the deepest depths of the pit, neither man nor beast, but retaining the faint semblance of both. Its back was matted with a thick layer of filth, an animal fur with a scaly, reptilian underbelly. The face of the beast was like that of a bat that had been crossbred with a wolf. Something like a short, stunted, forked tail dangled from the tip of what sprouted from the tip of its spine. In all, it was a blasphemous creation spewed from out of the boiling pit of hell's seething loins. The sight sent Kevin into shock. His mouth opens as if to scream. Young Perkins clasps both hands over Kevin's mouth, stifling any emissions of horror. The nightmarish scene groans into demonic madness as the fiendish ghoul proceeds to glut itself. With a half-starved hunger, the thing before them greedily fed on Jonah's putrid remains. Beneath the gloom of a quarter moon, among the forgotten graves of the wretched dead, Mr. Pickman stood calmly gazing down at the creature squatting before him. All was still, all was silent, save for the inhuman grunts emitted from the beast, which continued gnawing. The sound of teeth grinding against bone mingled with the nauseating sound of slobbering lips, masticating raw, necrotic, maggot-ridden, cadaverous human flesh was extremely unsettling. Kevin began to struggle, as if in an attempt to rise. Anyone presented with such a scene would want to rise and run. Young Perkins himself savagely battled the urge to flee. Instead, he merely clamped tighter to his companion and continued gazing in hypnotic terror. The thing dug its claw-like hand deep into Jonah's bloated belly, which burst with a muffled pop. It then began to draw out Jonah's intestines, slowly wrapping them around its hands and wrists. Mr. Pickman removed his glove. At last, young Perkins would find out what lurked beneath the leather. No sooner had Pickman removed his glove, a cloud drifted past the moon. During a night that was already shaded, the figure of Mr. Pickman had become but a mere shadow of itself. Young Perkins could only see the faint figure of Mr. Pickman stretching forth his hand and began stroking the creature's head affectionately. Young Perkins was certain that the book Mr. Pickman read from was not the Bible. No, not at all. What Pickman held was a book of magic. A book of dark magic, in fact. A dark magic indeed, to bring up such a thing as this monstrosity. Kevin. Young Perkins continues his attempt at getting his friend to respond. Upon removing his hand, he comes to the startling realization that in his fright, he had accidentally stifled Kevin's breathing. Kevin wasn't breathing. Kevin was dead. Panicked, young Perkins began to push on Kevin's back with both palms, as one would do a drowning victim. Oh God, dear God. Young Perkins beseeches the heavens in a shattered voice, all the while performing the drastic motions. His movements draw the attention of the monster, which ceases its feeding. Remaining motionless, the creature turns its head in the direction of the sound. Its grunting growls grow quiet as it silently listens. Like a gift from heaven, like a prayer answered, Kevin emits a faint groan and inhales deeply. The tension was too much for young Perkins, who rouses his companion from his lethargy, commanding, "Let's get the hell out of here." This command needed no repeating. Kevin, still groggy, instantly obeyed. Thereby the two begin their withdrawal. Crawling through the bushes in the direction of the church, the dry leaves of autumn betray their motions. As the sound of their movements gain the attention of Mr. Pickman, he commands the beast with a gesture of his hand. To their shock and amazement, that beast heeded its master's command and began pursuing the two who burst from the cover of the weeds. Half running, half staggering, the young men fled, running in mindless terror, heedless of the barbs and branches which slashed them with punishing lashes. The chill of fear numbed the stinging pain as they ran the gauntlet. All the while, the horrified youths continued to be closely pursued by the blasphemous outrage. Increasingly loud hisses, followed by angry growls as it hounded their heels, gave impetus to the pursued. The monster slowly closed the distance as it moved in a rapid, loping gait. Not daring to look back, the pursued could only measure the beast's proximity by the odor it emitted. The rotting stench of the grave, a stifling, choking miasma that grew stronger with its nearing, then fainter with its distance. The thick foliage confused them. They had become lost. The demonic specter had forced them from the trail. They had become entangled, trapped in the thick growth of weeds and creeping vines. The shadow of doom loomed behind them. "I'm sorry, Kevin." Young Perkins apologizes, seeing that their retreat had been cruelly halted. "That's okay." He forgives his young friend between gasps of air. The two wait for the end. But as they had become entangled among the barbs, so had the matted fur of the hellish beast also become entangled, thus giving the young men a brief respite to force their way through the thicket. As if guided by an angel, they found their way back onto the narrow trail that led to the church. They once more hear the growls and snarling, snapping fangs of the unnameable horror. The safety of the church loomed in the near distance. "Hallowed ground!" Young Perkins shouts to his companion. "We've got to make it to the church." Kevin gives no reply. He only continues to run his body, giving every appearance of imminent collapse. The monster gave a final surge of exertion, closing within reach of the two. Its hot breath was definitely felt. The strangling odor of putrid excrement builds as the two approach the church. "We ain't gonna make it," Kevin shouts. "Close your eyes," young Perkins orders. "Just close your eyes and run like hell." The sound of prayer echoed from within the church as the figures of two bruised, nicked, and lacerated young men explode through the double doors. Collapsing in the entryway, they lay exhausted, panting breathlessly. Kevin looks behind. There is no sign of